James Cameron has sunk to the bottom of the ocean, rewritten visual effects history, and made entire audiences ugly cry over blue aliens. But the wildest part is how much you still don't know about him. This is James Cameron, 10 wild facts you did not know. And by the end, you might see those gigantic blockbusters in a completely different way. At number 10, the biggest sci-fi epic of the century started as a 19-year-old's weird dream. Cameron was a broke truck driver in his early 20s, but rewind a few years. He is 19, sleeping in a tiny apartment, when he has this intensely vivid dream, a bioluminescent jungle. He is walking through a dark forest. The plants glow electric blue, and with every step, the moss under his feet lights up like he is walking on stars. He wakes up, heart pounding, and instead of brushing it off, he sketches it. Glowing trees, floating seeds, a planet that feels alive. That dream sits in his notebooks for decades while he is shooting The Terminator and Aliens. His friends at the time say he would randomly describe this world with glowing forests in the middle of lunch. People would nod politely, like, "Sure, Jim, glowing moss, cool." 30 years later, that late-night vision becomes Pandora. Those magical footsteps lighting up the forest floor. That is literally a shot he had been carrying in his head since he was a teenager. And of course, the twist. When he first pitched Avatar in the 1990s, Hollywood basically told him, "Too weird, too expensive, the tech does not exist. Try again later." He shelved his dream and then built the technology to make it real. At number 9, the man planning the future of cinema is racing against his own body clock. James Cameron is 71 years old, and he talks about his career the way an astronaut talks about oxygen. He knows exactly how much time he has left. He has already written Avatar 4 and Avatar 5, with release dates set for late 2029 and late 2031. In interviews, he will calmly say things like, "Yeah, I am in good health. I fully intend to direct 4 and 5. Then, without missing a beat, he adds, "But I'm not going to be doing Avatar movies into my 90s. At some point, I will have to pass the baton." Imagine that. A guy who has nearly $9 billion in ticket sales, sitting in his editing suite, not asking, "Can I pull this off?" But how many more of these can I physically fit into one lifetime? Crew members say he moves around, set with the energy of someone half his age. But in quiet moments, he will joke, "We better get this shot. I do not have another decade to reshoot it." The wild part? The films we are lining up for now were designed as part of a story he might never fully finish himself. He is building a universe, knowing he has to let go of it. At number 8, James Cameron is not just a director of fake oceans. He is an explorer who actually goes there. Between movies, he disappears. Underwater. Literally. He has taken part in deep-sea expeditions, spending hours inside cramped submersibles, the metal creaking under insane pressure, staring out at pitch-black water 2 miles down. He helped design a sub that dove to the bottom of the Mariana Trench, the deepest known point on Earth. Most people would need therapy after that. He came back with storyboards. And then there is his 5,000-acre organic farm in New Zealand. Imagine rolling green hills, mist clinging to the trees at sunrise, cattle moving through fields that look straight out of Middle Earth. That is his other set. He talks about walking that land and thinking about Pandora's forests, about his kids growing up with real soil under their nails, not just movie magic. He has said flat out that the Avatar movies are environmental parables, sneaking a climate message into a popcorn spectacle. One crew member remembers him stepping out of a helicopter in New Zealand, looking over the valley, and saying, "This is why we are doing this. If people fall in love with a fake planet, maybe they will fight a little harder for this one." At number 7. Before he broke box office records, he broke the studio's calculator. Terminator 2 was released in 1991, and at the time it was the most expensive movie ever made. The studios were freaking out over the budget. Early computer-generated imagery was insanely costly and unproven, and here is James Cameron saying, "We are going to turn a villain into liquid metal." Executives were terrified. What if the effects look fake? What if audiences laugh? They were picturing a shiny silver cartoon disaster. On set, Cameron is pushing his team to the edge. They are rendering tiny test shots of the T-1000 morphing through bars at 2 in the morning, with computers that would be outpowered by your phone today. People are sleeping under their desks. Cameron walks in, exhausted, reviews a shot, and just says, "Nope, do it again. It has to look impossible." The gamble pays off. The movie blows up, becomes the highest grossing film of that year, and everyone who said the tech is not ready is suddenly pretending they always believed. And the irony? The guy famous for apocalyptic killer robots is now one of Hollywood's loudest voices saying, "No, seriously, AI might be a problem." At number 6, James Cameron is at war with artificial intelligence, both on screen and off. He basically opened the modern AI anxiety conversation with The Terminator, but now that generative AI is real, he is not amused. He has called the idea of replacing actors with AI horrifying, not in a marketing way, but in that flat Canadian deadpan that makes you think he has already imagined the worst-case scenario. For the upcoming Avatar 3, he is reportedly putting a title card right up front telling audiences, no generative AI was used in creating the performances. Every face, every tear, every tiny muscle, twitch you see, was an actual human being doing the work. On set, when someone jokes about, "We can just fix it with AI," his response is not cute. Crew members say he shuts that down quick. "We fix it with craft." This is the same guy using cutting-edge virtual production and performance capture. He is not anti-technology. He just draws a hard line at replacing human emotion.
When people start reviewing your brain structure, they need to move out of mom's basement and meet somebody, right? I'm serious.
The man who made you care about a talking robot and 10-foot-tall blue aliens is staking his flag on the most old-school Hollywood principle. Actors matter. At number 5, the man who controls sound in your living room also tried to control sound in every theater on Earth. When Avatar: Fire and Ash rolled out, most directors would have been stressing about marketing or opening weekend numbers. James Cameron? He was stressing about your local theater's projector bulb. He literally sent out strict instructions to cinemas worldwide on how to screen his movie. We are talking charts, diagrams, and technical notes about frame brightness and a 7.0 audio reference level. He wanted to make sure the blacks were deep enough, the 3D was calibrated, and the sound mix hit exactly the way he heard it in his head. Projectionists opened these packets like, the director wants us to redo our audio tuning. One theater manager said it was like getting homework from a professor you have never met. Is it obsessive? Definitely. But this is the same guy who once dove to the bottom of the ocean just to get a better sense of how dark, deep sea should look on film. If he could personally stand in the back row of every screening with a decibel meter, he probably would. At number 4, the longest Avatar yet did emotional damage at home before it ever hit theaters. Avatar. Fire and Ash is nearly 3 hours and 17 minutes long. It is the longest film in the franchise so far, a $300+ million marathon of water, fire, and blue people in existential crisis. You would think the first full screening would be a clinical event. Editors, producers, notes. Instead, one of the most important test audiences was his wife. They sit down in a private screening room. Lights go down. 3 hours later, credits roll. And then, she just keeps crying. Not, "That was sweet," a little tear. We are talking 4 straight hours of sobbing after the movie ended. Cameron has told this story kind of half proud, half worried. He is standing there like, are you okay? And she is just wrecked by the emotional weight of the story. The twist is that for all the tech talk around Avatar, the cameras, the 3D, the frame rates, Cameron is quietly measuring success by this completely unscientific metric. Did it emotionally break the person closest to me? At number 3, the guy who once sold a script for $1 is now a billionaire, almost entirely from movies. James Cameron's net worth is estimated around $1.1 billion. no fashion line, no streaming platform, no side hustle tech company that accidentally turned into a monopoly. It is almost all from the films themselves. Box office, profit shares, licensing. Roll back to his early days. He literally sold the rights to The Terminator for $1 single on the condition that he got to direct it. He was a nobody then. No one in their right mind gives away their best idea for the price of a vending machine snack. But that $1 bet on himself launched a run of films that have now pulled in nearly $9 billion worldwide. There is a certain poetic comedy in that arc. A guy who started as a truck driver, dropped out of community college, made a $1 deal just for a chance, and ends up one of the first true billionaire directors, built almost entirely on ticket stubs and popcorn. At number 2, beneath the blue aliens and box office trophies, there is a director quietly fighting court battles. In the middle of promoting Avatar, The Way of Water, and gearing up for Fire and Ash, Cameron gets hit with a lawsuit. Writer Eric Ryder claims that elements of The Way of Water were lifted from his unpublished sci-fi script, a project called KRZ that he had once developed at a studio. Suddenly, the headlines are not just about box office records. They are about copyright infringement. For someone as controlling about his creative worlds as Cameron, this is personal. He has spent decades insisting he builds his own universes from scratch, going all the way back to that 19-year-old's dream of glowing moss. Now, he is in legal filings, arguing that the Na'vi oceans and storylines came from his own team's work, not anyone else's. While fans are debating theories online, lawyers are debating story beats in conference rooms. It is a reminder that even at the top, you are never just fighting for attention. You are always, quietly, fighting for ownership. And at number 1, the man behind Titanic literally gave up his paycheck to keep the ship afloat. During Titanic, the budget was spiraling. Sets were sinking, literally. The now iconic water tank sequences were brutal and expensive. The studio started to panic. Executives were looking at the numbers and seeing financial disaster. At one point, Cameron is told the movie is over budget, and they are not sure they can finish it the way he wants. He could have dug in his heels. Instead, he does something very few directors at that level would ever do. He gives up his director's salary. He essentially says, "Fine, take my fee, put it into the movie." It was a massive personal risk. If Titanic had bombed, that money was gone. No safety net. Just a very wet, very expensive cautionary tale. But he had this almost irrational confidence. He believed the film would work, not just technically, but emotionally. And of course, Titanic goes on to become one of the highest grossing movies in history, wins a mountain of Oscars, and his back-end deal more than makes up for the lost paycheck. The guy who would one day be a billionaire director once stared down the most expensive film ever made and said, "I will literally bet my salary that this sinks or swims." So what ties all 10 of these wild facts together? It is not just that James Cameron is obsessive or fearless or occasionally terrifying to work for. It is that he keeps making the same impossible bet. On big ideas, on real emotion, on humans over shortcuts, on his own vision, even when the math says don't. A 19-year-old's dream becomes a multi-billion-dollar franchise. A $1 script deal becomes a billion-dollar career. A man diving to the bottom of the ocean turns that darkness into cinema history. Whether you are watching a killer robot walk through flames or a Na'vi child touch glowing roots in an alien sea, you are seeing the same thing. A director willing to go further than is comfortable, just to show you something you have never seen before. In an industry obsessed with playing it safe, James Cameron's wildest trait is simple. He is still all in, and as long as he keeps betting on the impossible, the rest of us get to sit in the dark, put on the glasses, and watch the world change.